10 iconic American paintings you should know. Number 10. Freedom from Want, Norman Rockwell, 1943. Rockwell painted a quartet of canvases for the Four Freedoms series inspired by an FDR speech. The Four Freedoms included freedom of expression, freedom of worship, freedom from fear, and freedom from want. Freedom from Want was reproduced in an edition of the Saturday Evening Post, a place where many Americans saw Rockwell's iconic domestic images. This painting is emblematic of Rockwell's disturbing nostalgia, all is mostly well, except for the strange-looking boy in the back rear of the composition. Number 9. Reflags, Jasper Johns, 1958. In this iconic painting, Jasper Johns manages to divest the flag of much of its symbolic meaning. Instead, he forces the viewer to focus on the richly painted surfaces and depth created by stacking 3 canvases on top of each other. By shifting the visual emphasis from the flag's emblematic meaning to the geometric patterns and variegated texture of the picture surface and the canvas structure, Johns explores the boundary between abstraction and representation. Number 8. George Washington, Athenaeum, Gilbert Stuart, 1796. Known as the Athenaeum portrait because it went to the Boston Athenaeum after Stuart's death, this painting served as the basis for the engraving of Washington that appears on the $1 bill. Recognizing the appeal of his Athenaeum portrait of Washington, he chose not to finish it. Instead, he devoted his time to making as many copies of it as possible. It is therefore arguably the most reproduced American painting of all time. Number 7. Jack in the Pulpit, Georgia O'Keeffe, 1930. Widely considered one of the greatest 20th century American artists, Georgia O'Keeffe created serene works to reflect the world around her. Close-up flowers, a signature motif, were often so magnified that the petals and blooms become abstracted into sweeping shapes and colors. O'Keeffe carved out her own style apart from the Celtic modern art scene of the time and paved the way for many women artists to come. Number 6. Orange, Red, Yellow, Mark Rothko, 1961. Rothko is considered a pioneer of color field painting, a style within abstract expressionism in which color is the main subject itself. Painting was a method of spiritual expression for Rothko, and many viewers have broken down in tears in front of his works. Mark Rothko made a monumental contribution to abstract art, and he is regarded as one of the most influential abstract artists in the history of Western art. Number 5. American Gothic, Grant Wood, 1930. American Gothic is one of the most familiar images in 20th century American art, and has been widely parodied in American popular culture. Wood's inspiration came in his decision to paint what is known as the American Gothic house along with the kind of people I fancied should live in that house. With the onset of the Great Depression, the painting came to be seen as a depiction of steadfast American pioneer spirit. Number 4. Untitled Head, John Michel Basquiat, 1980. In the early 1980s, Basquiat swiftly rose to become one of the most well-known artists in the United States. His art focused on suggestive dichotomies, such as wealth versus poverty, integration versus segregation, and inner versus outer experience. John Michel Basquiat is perhaps the most famous American artist of the Neo-Expressionism movement, which is characterized by intense subjectivity and rough handling of materials. He died of heroin overdose at the age of only 27. Number 3. Nighthawks, Edward Hopper, 1942. Nighthawks is a 1942 oil-on-canvas painting by Edward Hopper that portrays people in a downtown diner late at night. It has been described as Hopper's best-known work and one of the most recognizable paintings in American art. Although Hopper denied that he purposely infused any of his paintings with symbols of isolation and emptiness, he acknowledged that, unconsciously, probably, I was painting the loneliness of a large city. The work has become a symbol of human isolation and urban emptiness. Number 2. Number 5. Jackson Pollock, 1948. Jackson Pollock was the preeminent figure of the abstract expressionism movement. He is the most famous American abstract artist and one of the outstanding figures of 20th century art. Although his paintings may not be accessible, they were seminal, changing the way we think of art itself. They may not be traditionally pretty, but they are both art and art history. Number 1. Marilyn Diptych, Andy Warhol, 1962. Andy Warhol is the best known and most influential artist of the pop art movement. The non-painterly style and commercial aspects of his paintings initially caused offense, as it affronted the technique and philosophy of abstract expressionism, the then dominant style in the United States. His paintings are among the most expensive ever sold, and though many still doubt the merit of his work, Andy Warhol is without doubt the most famous American artist.